are back from the Messenger Studios, the Messenger, and tonight with the Meade Truth coming at you. This is going to be an interesting show because we have a special guest on today.
That's right.
Mark, you want to tell us who we got and introduce him?
Well, first of all, glad to be back on the air. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been on with all the weather and all the stuff going on and all the how busy we've been with family life and things. So it's glad to be back on the air. Great to be back. And then, but with us tonight is Brett Guthrie. Our 2nd District U.S. House of Representative, and he's going to, we're going to welcome him in, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on the last couple of weeks in Washington. So welcome to the show, Brett.
Okay.
Hey, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Trying to get the video, but keep going. I'm super glad to have you.
See me?
Yeah, we can see you.
We see you. We're just trying to get everything situated on the. On the main output there, so
you're good.
Oh well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's great to be here, and just start with the great people of the 2nd District, Meade County, and all your surrounding listeners have allowed me to be here long enough. I was kind of looking back. I thought I was old. I was 44. How young I was when I got elected to Congress, but it's allowed me to be there long enough to get the seniority to be in a position. So I'm chairman now of the Energy and Commerce Committee.
That's a big one.
About 70% of all legislation goes through our committee. So the energy is self-evident. So we're going to have energy, environment. So when I see President Trump, I'm his drill baby drill guy. Is what he says.
Yeah.
Drill baby drill. So expanding energy. And what ties into that also, we have technology. So I met with the CEO of Apple this morning. I'm back in Bowling Green, but I flew out of D.C. this morning. And so all the technology, so all the AI investment. And so I was talking to the CEO of Apple about how the moves of climate change, which is limiting our ability to produce electricity, is going to affect our ability to beat China to AI. We also have the commerce section of our committee includes NIL, so Wildcat and Cards fans and Hilltopper fans like me, how college sports are going to develop over the next few years. And I think the big thing that we're working on now is also healthcare. So it's energy, technology, environment, and healthcare. So a lot of committees, like the Ag Committee has one big bill, Armed Services Committee, extremely important bills, but one big bill. We'll have about 70% of the flow of legislation in probably half the revenue and savings in big, bold, beautiful bill. So thanks for allowing me to be here, and hopefully I will serve you guys well.
No, thank you for coming.
Super glad.
I know you're busy.
You guys have had like a crazy week. So you got inauguration on Monday, right?
Yeah, I never had to stay indoors.
Yeah, it's freezing cold. Were you physically in the there on the floor? Obviously, it was restricted on the number of people, but the whole House and Senate, were they on the floor at the same time that happened?
Yeah, it's technically a session of Congress. When you receive the president, so we're all there, and I sat next to. Right. They just put you next to chairman, so they had the chairman sitting together. I sat next to Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, so I'm glad that she was there, and she's about as liberal as you can get. Some people didn't show up, but I think it's important. I showed up for, of the inaugurations. I've been through 2 Obama and 1 Biden that I did not want to be at their inaugurations, but I had to be. I thought it was the right thing to do. Well, what was interesting for me, I was about a row back from Tiffany Trump's mother. Yeah, she was out in the audience as well, so I could see Tiffany Trump's mother's phone. So I thought it was kind of endearing to see every time she would hold her Marla Maples is her name, someone will remember. Right. And every time she would hold her phone up and they had these huge moments on stage, it was always focused in on Tiffany and her husband. So moms were there for their daughters and so forth. So,
of course,
obviously the first lady. Obviously the first lady was on stage, but Marla Maples was there watching. Was there for Tiffany. Yeah, awesome. Just kind of you got to remember it's also a family.
That's a good point, because what I've seen over in this election versus the last election is how much more, not just personable, but just the fact that you've gotten to know. It seems like we've gotten to know Donald Trump a little bit more as a person, not just the figurehead on TV and from his television show, from his work as far as. In construction and being the quote unquote billionaire, right? You get to see him as a person. And I think that's gone a long way to making him more popular. But
and
I
it
do
goes
know.
back to the assassination attempt. I mean,
Yeah.
he really
Yeah,
believes.
yeah.
He talked to. I went to Mar-a-Lago to work on the big, bold, beautiful bill, as we call it, and he really got into the assassination and how blessed he was
Sure.
that he was spared and has the opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that. But what's interesting, so if you just look at the differences too, it's personal, but it's also political.
Yeah.
He, when he got to D.C. in 2017, he didn't know who he could trust, who he couldn't trust,
Sure.
who's his friend, who wasn't his friend.
Not this time.
If you read H.R. McMaster's book, which H.R. McMaster kind of has a couple of things in there that became the highlights of his book, but he really talked about how Secretary Tillis and Secretary Mattis was undermining President Trump. They thought he shouldn't be president, so we're there to
Yeah, and they were going to take it on them, and they were going to take it on themselves.
He doesn't put people in the cabinet like that this time.
Yeah.
So he knows what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And he knows how Washington works. And I think we've seen somebody said it's not the first 100 days this year; it's the first $100.
Yeah.
And I think you see he's working like he's doing what he was elected to do. And he was really moved. I could tell when I was at Mar-a-Lago that he got the popular vote.
So.
And he said that you could tell that really mattered to him because
It does,
not
yeah.
just that you
You
squeaked
can see
out
it.
an electoral victory, but it's the mandate and winning all 7 battleground states.
It seemed to calm him too, because now it doesn't feel like he feels like he has to prove anything along those lines. He feels like he's taken from what I can see watching on TV and such, and all the different interviews and stuff and that's another thing is we're getting interviews of the president now. So
he can talk to the public, right?
yeah, and that's an awesome thing. The thing is sometimes he says things that still scare people a little bit, I think. But talking about Canada, talking about AI and things. But you mentioned AI, what the people talk about. People have been talking about the guardrails have been lifted off of AI. And, that scares some people, It's like,
Right.
What do you mean by the guardrails? I mean, because is it just about being able to, produce the electricity that's necessary, or are there still going to be limitations on, on AI? Or how would how are we going to protect ourselves if? And I'm not talking about like, Terminator type stuff. I'm talking about
Right.
Because a lot of people are worried about is AI going to take jobs and things like that, right? So, and I try to calm people by saying, listen, no matter whatever, if AI is manufacturing something and they're doing it through robotics and making it as cheap as possible, somebody still has to be on the other side of that equation to buy it. Right, so there's
That's
always
right.
going to there's always a natural balance in capitalism, and so and I think that's what it is. But it scares people, and
Yeah,
so
if you read The Grapes of Wrath, which is tragic, The Grapes
Yeah.
of Wrath, and the family was displaced to move to California because of the tractor. So they were
Yeah.
sharecroppers, and the tractor kind of put them out of business. We're all better off because we have tractors.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
all better off, but it does displace people. So we have to factor that in and know that we're better off. So AI is 2 things with AI that you talked about. One is just the policy around AI.
Right.
You said Terminator. I always use Westworld. That's all the
Oh, yeah, Westworld's another good
Westworld's
one.
a good one.
So there's a fear that the computer is going to learn themselves and become their own self-fulfilling. There's a more technical term than this, but you can always unplug it.
Mm-hmm.
And so those concerns we got to make sure we have those covered. But it's just massive able to compute. For instance, they map the genome. Our bodies. If anybody wants to study our bodies and say there's not a creator, this did not happen by accident. So when the NIH mapped the genome, they started finding certain proteins. They said it takes a graduate student in their dissertation program about 2 years to map a protein. AI can do it in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're talking about targeted medicine, finding your cancer, those kinds of things is what we see coming from it. So the question we have to ask, and it's a fair question, and I'm not, if I could sit here and told you I do the full answer, I wouldn't be honest with you, is that how much, so if you have that kind of access to data,
Right.
Yeah.
how do we limit it and how do we protect ourselves
Yeah.
from people using our data? In Europe, they have all these privacy laws. And if, let's say you're in some database and your name's in a database, you have the right to sue that company. So nobody's doing AI in Europe. And so we need to, but it will be done in China if we don't do it here.
Right.
So
And like Microsoft became the platform for all the computers, somebody's going to become the platform for all of the AI. And if it's China, they're certainly going to use it for bad situations. Sure. And so we have to win that. So one is, how do we control? We need a privacy laws to make sure we control our own data, but not in a way that prevents, you can have medical records.
So we
define the balance, right?
So we were talking.
So what happens is they'll take like massive amounts of medical records, and and what we have to make sure is that they can't be identified.
Yeah. Right.
But they'll say this person has sniffles, whatever, cold, and put all that into an AI system, and it spits out the exact diagnosis within incredible accuracy. That's the kind of stuff that you can do with it. Calculating how do we get fission and fusion to stop. That's I don't want to choose not to grow like Europe and therefore make our energy policy where we go backwards. But if there's some next great invention that's going to make energy cheaper and cleaner, that's what we want. We don't want the government to force the solar panels and those kind of things. So that's what AI can do. Right. You have to have the energy to drive it.
So it's funny you talk about this today, because I was at the Kentucky Press Association convention in Lexington today, and AI was one of the topics, and there are so many opposed to AI in journalism, yet the top 5 writers in the nation, recent Pulitzer Prize winner, and the Nobel Peace Prize, they all used AI to help drive the content of their story. It didn't write it, but they used AI to cut down on their research time or to put facts together. You can check conciseness and all that other stuff. But to your point, using it in medical theory and all that other stuff, is there an ethic that goes with it? Yes, I think to your point too, if we give the responsibility of ethic or ethical control of the products to China. And the other interesting conversation we had today is that they're using AI and the AI bots on newspapers and websites to go back and find photos that were used and trying to charge these small companies fees for copyright infringement for photos that are available publicly online, and they commented about how you say you got it from an online source, but who loaded it may not have been the original author, and so these bots and this AI technology can supposedly find that from 15 years ago.
Exactly, and you remember the writer's strike in California? A lot of it was over AI. Where the problem you now have kids writing their term papers just going to, I need a term paper on War and Peace, and so I'll write it. Yeah, and that gets to the point that if you're a writer, you're a creator. Sure. I understand that if you're you do automated work. My family has a factory. So automated work. You can automate if you're just automate, but being able to repair that robot makes you earn about 4 times what you would have earned if you were just running that machine. That's what we have to get our students to, is to that level. Yeah. But if you're a creator, you're a creative person, and a computer using chat can replace you, then you're not very creative. So I always said that AI could probably be used to write a Hallmark Christmas movie. Yeah. Where you say, I want the boy from the city, the girl from the city who goes to the small town where she's from, meets the old boyfriend, and they decide to spend whatever. That's the Hallmark. But it's not going to write The Grapes of Wrath or Tolstoy or those kind of things.
Well, I mean, it can now because it's because it knows the story. But humans, I have this discussion quite a bit too. It's like humans have the creativity that we talk about. The creativity that we have is because we saw something as humans and said, I see something different out of that, right? I can do something different with it. And it's not something I need. It's something I want to do or want to. That's where the creativity comes in. It's like, to chisel a human form out of rock or granite or whatever, right? To be able to do that. The question is would AI, would an artificial intelligence ever want to do that if it wasn't told to do that? Right, and
it can copy Michelangelo, but it can't create it. Right,
that's right.
It just can't create it.
I want to know what it felt like on the floor this week. You said you came back from Mar-a-Lago. You all did all this work, and you're ready to get to work. So, talk to us and make us feel that shared, renewed vigor that you guys have now there in Congress.
You saw the momentum, didn't you? You saw the momentum. Yeah. And so we were all excited about it. But we have the reality that we only have Well, if President Trump keeps picking some and wonderful colleagues, Michael Waltz, Lee Stefanik, he picked one other. Just I can't believe this escapes my mind. We lost two from Florida, so Rubio left. So
yeah,
Michael Waltz and Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz left, resigned. So if he keeps picking them, we're not going to have a majority. So we got some really good members we got to keep. So we're down until the special election for Matt Gaetz and for Michael Waltz till April to one vote. We will be 217 to 215.
Okay. Right.
And so hopefully go back to 220. And so it's a sober reality. We got people from suburban New York City that are, now in the day they would be called conservatives, but today you would call them a moderate Republican.
Yeah.
And then you've got, the Freedom Caucus my job, because I've got to reform some of our healthcare programs to save them, is to find out what the balance is. I spent a lot of time with both ends of the spectrum to try to say, all right, what can you vote for? What are you mandating? What can you vote for?
Right.
So the reality setting in to get President Trump's big, bold, beautiful bill is going to be difficult. President Trump's going to have to completely weigh in and tell members of Congress that this is the plot. He's got to call the play, which he's done. This is the way we're going to do it, which he's trying to decide between two bills or one. And then once he makes the call, we all have to execute, not let down the American people. And so I'm all in. I'm right in the middle of it, and I wouldn't be there without the people of Second District allowing me to be there. And but it's exciting. It is absolutely exciting to know that bills we pass out of the House will go to the Senate and at least get a hearing in the Senate.
Right.
I know they still have that 60 vote threshold on some things.
Yeah.
And then can be signed by the president. So there's a process called the Congressional Review Act that we can undo rules that were passed in the last 90 days. And so we're listing all the rules that we can undo with the regulatory state or the swamp. And so they'll get signed by the president. So we're not just in an exercise of making a message. We're not going to send the bill over just to a message. This is what our position is. We're sending it over to get it accomplished for the American people, and that is so exciting.
Yeah.
I think it's a little. I'm glad to see that there's at least a couple of Democratic senators that are at least listening to people right now. I know that it's still a long way away from getting to the 60, but at least it seems like there's it's like what one or two that are that are actually. I was glad to see Marco Rubio get confirmed 99-0. Right, that was but everybody kind of it shows that that not all of his appointees are going to be are going to struggle, but I think they're going to are they going to vote on Pete Hegseth tonight? Is that what the
That's
thought
what
is?
they're counting. So the way the Senate works, if they can get a complete agreement and get the 60 vote agreement, they have to debate for 30 hours.
Right.
So what they do, I don't know if they're actually on the floor debating, but they leave the floor open for 30 hours. And on the 30th hour of that, they come back and can vote. So I think they're waiting for the 30 hours to click on him. And as soon as that stops, they're going to start the 30 hours on Governor Noem out of South Dakota is for Homeland Security. And I'm a big believer. I wouldn't say I would vote for, I'm not a senator, so I don't have that option, but I'm not sure I would have voted for everybody that Joe Biden put forth. But I do believe that just to be a roadblock for president gets elected, they deserve to have their cabinet.
Yeah.
There's people I wouldn't have voted for in his cabinet, I can tell you that. But just to be a roadblock, knowing it's going to pass anyway, is not helpful.
Was it Senator Booker? I think they just went out and read a poem from their staff or something like that. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, but that's.
Oh yeah, that's one of the. Yeah, they just went out and read a poem.
It's hard to talk for 30 hours on Kristi Noem. She's a wonderful person, and so what they do is just they just occupy the floor. Ted Cruz. Remember one year he read the Dr. Seuss book. He just occupied.
I do remember.
Yeah,
that.
You don't have to be saying anything. You just have to be saying something, and that's what some of them do.
Yeah.
But having said that, Ted Cruz is actually the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House has 3 committees equivalent in the Senate. So that's kind of the scale of what you guys are allowing me to do.
Wow.
And it's Shelley Moore Capito with energy.
Yep.
It is Bill
From
Cassidy with healthcare. But Ted Cruz and we've already met. We met and going over some things we're going to work on, particularly reform. And we're really excited about. So I remember him running for president. I was just kind of a junior member of Congress. Now we're sitting around negotiating the bills were going to do. So
Right.
I walked him on. Jamie Comer and I kind of walked in Mar-a-Lago together, and I can tell you, two country boys from the South have never. I've toured places like that when you go to a Vanderbilt home. I've never been to someone's home like that, and we still pinch ourselves. And whenever I lose that, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's time for me to not do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I still have that. I can't believe I'm doing it. So I appreciate it.
I mean, even President Trump, he talked about walking back into the office and things, and they I saw this on Fox News and they were talking those I can't remember who it was on Fox News that was talking about it, but they were saying that it's kind of endearing to see a president. Humbled by the seat that he's sitting in, right? To say, that even as, no matter, I mean, they were talking about, there's only been 45 people that sat in that seat, right?
Yeah.
47 presidents, but two of them served two separate terms, right?
Yeah,
two
non-consecutive. The doubles, right?
Right. But I mean, there's only 45 men in that club. And it's like
somebody asked him. There were 10 of us. It was a chairman at Mar-a-Lago, and they asked him about some of those kind of things. And it was off the record meeting. So, but I don't think he would mind me saying that what moved me, because he's people love him because he's the big bravado. I'm here to change America. He's kind of the voice of like hardworking America, right? People love that.
Yeah.
Whatever. But he really got into exactly what you said, and in the tone that people don't really see of him is that when he first got. The night of the first inaugural, after all the balls were over with, he and Melania went to the residence and they walked into the Lincoln bedroom. And so I just stood there. Because, sometimes he'll say things like, I'm the greatest president ever, maybe Lincoln. Maybe Lincoln, he'll say that publicly. But he just said, I just stood there and looked in this room. I said, we're here where Abraham Lincoln was. And a lot of people don't see that side of him, and he doesn't always show it, probably purposely. But I think people would like to see it, and it's real. It is absolutely real. There was no reason for him to. He was not. He's a showman. He is, right?
He is.
There was no reason for him to be a showman to us. It was coming from the heart.
I feel like you've seen more of that in this election cycle than the previous two. I believe the assassination attempt has changed him and humbled him. I mean, in a way. I mean, I feel like that's always been him, but now it's kind of amplified. It's just showing, and because he still says things that are because he tries to be a funny guy. Right, he's always got a joke on his.
He's absolutely funny.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
but he's always in that mode. It seems like always. And so let's take for instance that he I guess he was meeting with you guys, if I remember right, and talking about this is my last election, and then he joked, well, unless you all do something about it. Well, then. Today or yesterday, somebody put a resolution in to try to change the amendment. Right, exactly. And it's like it almost seems like that was I fully believe that President Trump was kidding, was joking, right?
Was making. I was there. Matter of fact, what he said was, "This is my last term. Unless y'all do something about it." And then he said, which didn't make the news, of course. He says, "Wow, that was a joke." But I know that's going to be the headline now.
Sure.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Andy Ogles from he represents Nashville, just south of Nashville, put in an amendment that if you can serve 2 consecutive terms. So so somebody said today that Andy Ogles put in an amendment that wouldn't apply to Obama, wouldn't apply to whatever, and it would apply to anybody. It would apply to Grover Cleveland if it was in place. Of course, we didn't get this amendment to the 1940s or 50s after Roosevelt, but I don't think that's I don't think he's anywhere, but
I don't think so either. But it just it may there's people who pick up on that stuff, and it's like, oh, now we're distracted by that, right? And it's like we got so much to do, and it's like to me, I wish we wouldn't have. I wish we didn't have those type of distractions. I think there's other things that we need to be doing. Down the road, and I don't think that I really don't think that President Trump wants a third term. I think that he wants to get things done right now, and I think he's trying to build. I think he's trying to build for the future by putting other people in place that can that can be seen and be, and be good replacements down the road. I really feel like he's doing that.
Vance at what, 39? He's got, I don't know if Elise Stefanik is 40 yet. If she's 40, she's not close to, she's right at it if she's that close. She got elected in 2012 and she was 30. So I guess I guess she's right at 40.
Yeah.
She was 28 when she got elected. And so she's extremely talented.
Yeah.
And she wooed them over. Did you see her hearing? I think everybody walked
yeah.
out thinking she was gonna, and that's her. Extremely well, and that's what JD Vance. Extremely well prepared. Sometimes President Trump, he kind of just pulls, he just does it, and that's what makes him fun. But Vance is always extremely well prepared. At least Stefanik's extremely well prepared. People are going to love Kristi Noem. I've known her since she got elected 2 years after I did to Congress, and then left to run for governor. But you know what President Trump was talking about? What really struck him, and I know Stephen was in the Army, so he'll know this. He said it was 130 yards away, but this guy was a shot. He wasn't just a. That's right. He just didn't show up with a gun. And so President Trump goes, and my son, Don Jr., who's a hunter, and President Trump did say this, everybody loves their children, right?
Yeah.
Probably could be the best shot in America. That's what he said about Don Jr.
Yeah.
He said, probably the best shot in America. He said, but he goes, Dad, you got to understand that's a 1-foot putt for somebody who knows how to shoot.
Yeah.
So if you had not turned your head at the exact, because I always look straight, because I look people in the eye, but he remember he was showing a graph. He goes, and he goes, there's no odds. He said this, there's no odds. This is almost a quote, that while my head would have turned at that time, it was God.
That's right.
Yeah, he has talked about
a casino, so he knows odds, right?
Yeah.
We're dealing on a casino, so he knows odds.
And it's like, but he's been completely humbled, I believe, and it's been a great thing. Because we get to see the real, the dad, the grandpa, and that's.
Well, the dad, he told this. I didn't know this, and like I said, all this stuff, I don't think you would mind me saying that Barron was at Mar-a-Lago playing tennis when that happened, and the first word he got is his dad had been shot in the head and killed.
Oh my gosh!
When Barron was on the tennis court, he ran back into the house thinking his father was dead. You can just imagine that?
Man,
it's just unfathomable.
Yeah. I remember we didn't see it live, and I remember how I felt, and and it's just like, I think my wife, Kathy saw it on Facebook and said, unless you all do something about it.
Sorry, hold on. I did that thing. Go ahead. Keep going.
Sorry about that. So Kathy said that she said she's just looking on Facebook and saw something from one of her cousins says President Trump's just been shot, and we're like flipping over. I think we were watching a ball game or something.
Almost like getting the news about the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Right? It was like that day almost. Not as severe, but it still grabs the attention because the last time we had a call like that would have been Robert F. Kennedy, right?
Right.
And so,
well, I remember when Steve Scalise got shot.
We
had that. And he's been through it.
Yeah.
And Reagan was shot, right? I remember when Reagan got shot, but
I was in high school. That's how old I am when he was shot. So
yeah.
I remember right where I was when I heard the president been shot.
Yeah, but to your point, it was that was an unmissable putt, and to have just turned your head in the right time. To have gotten shot in the ear. It's tragic, though, the amount of rounds that got shot off, and then those folks that were in the audience that actually.
He did talk about the fire chief that got shot. He did talk about him and how he thinks about it.
I thought it was very appropriate that they carried the fire department that did in the parade that they did indoors, and that they honored him. You can tell his compassion and his gratefulness too. The fact that they had limited resources for anything that day because of the cold and just trying to give people their time back, but he still made sure that respect was given. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Tragic, but phenomenal.
One thing I know we said we're going to drop here in a few minutes, but is there anything else? I got one more thing I want to say, but I wanted to give you the opportunity, Brett, if there's anything else you want to share, any stories or anything. Yeah.
So I just want people to kind of watch what's going to happen over the next few days and maybe a few weeks. So So the problem we keep calling about reconciliation.
Yeah.
Well, the Senate wanted we felt there was no way to ever balance. So the reconciliation is a Senate issue. Senate, it's all Senate.
Right.
We have to pass a bill that meets the Senate test, or the Senate can't pass the bill. So back in if you hear the term bird bath, you'll hear all these other things. You'll hear the next one. What that is that they said that we'll never balance the budget if we have to get 60 votes in the Senate, because no party, Obama actually had it, but most parties don't get 60 votes. So they said they got rid of the filibuster in a very limited thing called the reconciliation bill. So the budget committee will get together and say, we're going to ask Energy and Commerce, my committee, to save $1 trillion, create revenue or savings of $1 trillion. We're going to have natural resources do $5 billion. We're going to have all these others. And so we report out bills that do that, and then they go back to the budget committee and we pass a budget. We have to pass a budget. If we don't pass a budget, then it doesn't get to the Senate. So once it goes to the Senate, then the Senate only has to do 51 bills. But anything we put in the bill has to be budget related. For instance, I'm working on Medicaid. There's some policies we want to reform Medicaid. By reforming the policies, we generate savings from the budget.
Oh,
so we can do Medicaid. But we can't. So the question is, so what we're trying to say, can we do energy permitting reform so we can do pipelines so we can move energy? Because we all know that if we move energy, we're going to make money. So it has to have a direct budgetary impact.
So you have to make that.
We put this in records, so we can't get everything in it. So Robert Byrd was a senator from West Virginia that protected the Senate traditions. And he says, I will be for this and vote for it, but it has to be only budget. So when they call it the bird bath or the bird rule, is that let's say we put in the bill, we're going to put in pipeline reform, because if there's more pipelines, it has to be direct. We know it's going to create more money for the coffers.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're putting it in. And then the Senate parliamentarian has to say, that's more policy than budget. So then that can get taken out. And if there are too many of them taken out, then the whole bill dies. And that's what we don't want to have happen. So this is kind of the thing to look for, though. So this is what you did. So
Interesting.
My committee's looking to save $1 trillion over 10 years. That's what I want to do. So if we put $1 trillion in our budget, and I get there and I'll say, all right, we're going to reform this part of Medicaid, and we got 3 people that won't vote for it, then all of a sudden, that's like $400 billion of that trillion that we can't book if we can't get 218 votes. So here's the argument that's going on. So we could say, with the old prices right, we could say, Energy Commerce, you need to save $1 billion. I can always save more, but I can't go under. If I go under, the bill dies. And so we're now arguing with some people. They said, well, if we don't put a high number, you won't hit a high number. But if we hit a high number, if we have a high number and can't get there, then the whole bill dies. So we're arguing amongst ourselves with some people like Thomas Massey, some others. My goal is $1 trillion, but if you hold me to $1 trillion and 3 people say no, and I get to 800 billion, which is a lot of money, then you can't put my provision in the bill. So those are the kind of things we're going to be with President Trump in Florida again. The whole conference is going to the Trump Doral, or however you say it, and going to meet Monday, Tuesday with President Trump to kind of work through this. And so hopefully by the next couple of weeks, this will start taking shape. But so I know you got a lot of rural hospitals around us and Medicaid. We want to reform it to make it sustainable. If it continues the way it is, with a $1.8 trillion budget deficit, it's going to collapse. The country's going to collapse. And I would rather fix it in a way that's responsible outside of a crisis, because we fix it during a crisis, it's going to be painful.
Right.
It's not going to be everything everybody wants, but we can't keep borrowing $1.8 trillion.
And you got to start somewhere. You
can't keep borrowing $1.8 trillion.
Somebody's going to get told no. Sorry, we're not going to make everybody happy.
Eventually,
we want to make sure rural hospitals are successful.
Sure.
Right.
We got to make sure we don't go too far that we hurt them, but we also need to make sure we save enough money that this debt, we spend more money on interest than we do on the military.
That's true. I know. Quick question. If I can throw it in real fast, Mark, before I hand it back over to you.
Sure.
All right. No, I'll throw it over to Mark. Mark had one more question. Go ahead.
No, I just had one more of a comment than a question. But one of the things that I think that I've been talking to some folks and things, and it's like what we want, what people are a little afraid of some of the things they're talking about, AI and things like that, and President Trump talking about forcibly annexing Canada, even though he didn't say forcibly, but that's some of the things that's out there, and such, and what people are afraid of. Some people are talking about is they just want to make sure that our legislators and such are at least aware and thinking about these things, right? That while we're removing some of the guardrails from AI so we can get it going and make sure it works for us in the U.S. And that we remain a leader here. They want to know that you guys are thinking about these things, that you're keeping
Absolutely.
an eye on it, right? And and you're prepared to act when you feel it's necessary.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to pass that along to you.
We're working on privacy legislation, children's privacy on the internet particularly, and we just got to get it right, because if we lose this to China, it's like losing the dollar as a world currency. It'd be like if Microsoft didn't win the battle for computer software, everybody in the world would have Huawei on it. We absolutely don't want that. That would be devastating. So there's a balance, and we are thinking sometimes it's hard to find what the right side of the line you need to be on, but that's what we try to work together. That's why our founding fathers are brilliant. One person can't make that decision. It's 218 on our side and 51 in the Senate, or 60 for their rules.
Yeah.
Good.
Well,
all right, Stephen, you had a final question?
If you don't mind, so everybody has probably chimed in from attorney generals across the states of the United States in reference to the immigration policy that we're going to enforce, and obviously this is where the discernment comes up between a child that came across here from illegal parents who, crossed the border illegally, unlawfully, and then had a child. It was born in the United States. That child is, a U.S. citizen by the 14th Amendment, right? And that's going to be the long game controversy because, from that amendment, and from what I understood, the reason why the Supreme Court, the case that they're quoting from the 1800s, is those Chinese that the husband-wife came here, worked here in the United States lawfully, then returned to China with their child, who was still a child, and then the child, as it grew up, said, I want to come to the United States, and during the time, of course, they probably denied him, and that's when the case came about. But they came here lawfully, had a child, and then left.
Right.
So, how do you see that playing out in all these discussions while they execute the order? I mean, obviously, he's going after, criminals. And maybe they're the parent of a child, and obviously if that displaces the child, we're going to still probably take care of the child. We always do in our systems by state. But you've got somebody here that's a child molester or a murderer or a multi-felon, right? Part of probably the cartel or whatever that's helping smuggle whatever. That's who they're going after right now. Isn't that the intent? And
they're going after the people. You have to have right now, the rule is essentially, I don't know if I haven't seen the rule, but what they are doing is people with a criminal act beyond illegally. It's a criminal act across the border. Illegally,
sure, right.
But a criminal act besides being here without a legal status. That's what they're going after. And I mean, you would think 99.99% of Americans would be for sending back people that are criminal. I mean, we didn't. The Lake and Riley Act, that's the first bill that the president's going to sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Was named after the young lady in Georgia that was killed jogging by a known criminal. And Democrats voted against it. I mean, a lot of Democrats voted, not all. We got some bipartisan votes, but voted it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke against it. She's now on my committee.
I saw her.
She joined my committee.
Yeah, you were telling.
Rashida Tlaib spoke against it. And so.
But it would clear out a lot of prisons that taxpayers are spending money on.
Well, when we get them out of prison and send them there, we need to make sure they don't come back.
Yes, I concur. But I mean,
kind of balance. I'd rather them sitting in American prison, and I want them to go back home and come back.
But interesting.
We're going to have people in place now to keep them from coming back.
That's good.
Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Brett. What you guys do.
Brett.
I'll see you all soon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate all you're doing.
Absolutely.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mark, I think that was very informational.
Yeah, I mean, we could have probably gone on and on because
yeah.
I wanted to talk. You got into immigration. I was like, well, heck, that we could probably do another episode just on immigration, and we'll get Brett on again.
Yeah, that seems to be the hot button right now, though, too, because
because we really didn't get into the birthright citizenship.
No.
EO that he signed.
Dude, 30 minutes and 200 issues to talk about. Just the number.
There's 200 actions that we're talking. But I think that we hit some good points.
I think getting a sense of the feeling. First, I want to comment. Thank you, Brett, for reminding us that you're still grounded in your roots and that you appreciated the opportunity to go to Mar-a-Lago, but you were pinching yourself with Congressman Coombs, right? And then making it known that you still don't forget where you came from and where your roots are, and that you're really there to represent the folks of the district. So that was important.
Well, I think that's all we have for tonight, Steve. Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up? I do want to say that thank you all. We will be doing our reorganization. It's only going to be February 22nd at the Meade County Fairgrounds. It's going to we're going to do registration at 9 a.m. and we're going to
rebuild the party.
We'll reorganize the party. We do it every 4 years. So I appreciate Steve, what you're doing, and thanks for putting this on and allowing us to come on.
Well, thanks for renting the studio. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for tuning in to the Messenger Studios, a byproduct of Meade Media Group, LLC. Happy to support all those that are out there trying to do their part to support the community. So, Mark, thanks again, brother. We appreciate you, buddy.
All right, take care. Good night, everybody.